向環球時事之門，真正言論門常開。劉墉、隨意門。
Okay, we're back to Choi Yi Moon, and we have guest tonight, Matthew Thorne, director of the documentary Lessons in Dissent, Mei Gao Ting, which will be screened in the next 4 weeks, 4 weekends in Cornhill Cinema, Hong Yi Hei Yuan. So people who haven't watched this film, I suggest to go to watch it. Now, we talk about the film and why did you decide to make this film in the last 2 parts. Now, we go to a more sort of boring stuff, I would say. Politics in Hong Kong. Now, you make this film, and I would say, actually, you have been quite involved in local politics because of this film.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I became interested in this film because of politics, and then I guess making this film, I went over from being the documentary maker, member of the press, to being an activist as well.
Yes, yeah.
Because I think if you spend time with activists, you end up, I made this film because I cared about the cause.
Sure.
You spend time with activists, it becomes very hard not to want to participate yourself, to stand on the sidelines all the time and just record it. You become tempted to want to join in.
So what do you think now? You just said actually, Joshua Wang Zifeng was quite moderate actually a few years back. Now he is no way to be seen as a moderate in Hong Kong. So what do you think about the sort of the trend, the social trend? Is Hong Kong politics moving towards more radical? I definitely think so, as a member of People Power. But what do you think about the whole trend? I mean, what's the cause of it, and what do you see? I mean, with the whole trend?
Well, I think there's a massive cleavage in the pan-democratic camp.
Yes.
So you're seeing.
And we are the cause.
Well, no, I wouldn't say. I think you're the consequence.
Yes, I agree.
Rather than the cause. Essentially you've got the moderates and obviously the so-called radicals. I don't like these terms very much because I don't think they're actually very descriptive.
Exactly.
No one's a radical in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I always tell people that I'm ashamed to call myself a radical. I mean, what's so radical about me? I mean, so yeah, you go on.
But we use the terms because everyone else does, and so they're easy. But essentially, I think that we're seeing a move within the pan-democratic group towards the more radical side of the camp, because being a moderate, what's it achieved in the last 30 years? Next door to nothing, really.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
So, isn't it time to try a few different tactics? So I think that, and also I think the other key thing is that the demographic change in age. So you're seeing now a lot of younger kids who are, basically people under the age of 35 or 40 who, either had a Western education or university education in Hong Kong, and they're sort of coming back and saying, hold on a second, we want democracy, and we recognise that democracy is not granted to those who ask nicely. Democracy is not granted to those who make a good legal or moral argument for it. Why would Beijing hand over the power just because you ask nicely or you make a good legal argument? They just say, "Oh, we'll change the law then." They don't listen to that reason. So people are saying, "Well, we realise that if you want democracy, you have to fight for it." Democracy is fought for and earned. And I think a lot of people, a younger generation, who are the main supporters of the radical parties, they recognise that, and so you're seeing a generational shift. As they get older and are voting, they are saying, well, actually, we think People Power, LSD are the ones we want to vote for, and the older generation, they are. Many of them still voting for the Democratic Party, but they also become disenchanted. Older generation, they still vote because historically older generations vote. But I think many, more middle class, wealthier older generation, they sort of feel, well, it's not going to make any difference, so why bother? So you're seeing a drop-off in the moderate vote in just the turnout level, and the radical camp are more. They're better at communicating and connecting with their supporters and their voters, because they have no there's no confusion over their stance. So, you know, the radical camp knows that civil nomination for Occupy Central is what their supporters want. So they don't need to and ah about it. They can go straight for it. Whereas Democratic Party, what do they think their voters want? They don't know. And the Civic Party, even more so. They just umming and ahhing, because are their supporters moderates, or are their supporters more radical but still middle class? So, you know, this is where you're seeing it. Basically, it's a generational change and a disillusionment with more moderate policies.
Right. I want to pursue that point later about the confusion of the stance over the moderate parties like Civic Party and Democratic Party. But before that, I mean, Occupy Central, of course, is actually still although it sort of weakens a little bit over the year. But still, it is still actually the main kind of platform and talking point of the fight for democracy in the last 2 years. And are you optimistic about this? Because actually quite a lot of people, I mean, they might support the Occupy Central movement, or they might support someone or us to do things for them to fight for democracy, but they won't participate. But they are quite cynical about this whole thing, because they always think, I know in Hong Kong people are too conservative, people care too much about money, people care too much about the jobs, and movements like Occupy Central will not.
My answer to that very quickly is, you know, how many people did Joshua Wong get on the 7th of September 2012?
Right.
Most people are estimating 120,000. You get 120,000 people to turn up on Occupy Central, and I think Occupy Central is a success. But really, we should be aiming not for 10,000, not for 120,000. We should be aiming for the same number of people that came out on the 21st of May 1989. So that's like 1.5 million people who basically said, you know, Tiananmen Square, this was before the massacre, so this is people coming out in support of the students when in Hong Kong. And you know, you look at those pictures, I mean, that really was Hong Kong with solidarity. And now I think there's enough people, you know, if you ask Hong Kongers tomorrow, we'll give you democracy, you don't have to do anything for it, all you have to do is just ask and we'll give it to you, yes or no? I reckon 90% of Hong Kong people will say yes.
Yes.
Whether they actually want to do something for it is a different question. But I think, you know, Occupy Central, as it stands right now, may not happen in what many people think will happen, in that Benny Tai and the official Occupy Central leadership might not end up being the people who lead Occupy Central. I would guess that Wong Jifeng and the other sort of younger groups will actually end up being the people who run the show, because at the end of the day we're already seeing that the older generation don't seem to have the resolve to stick it out.
That's quite true.
The younger generation, on the other hand, they do. I think they really do have the resolve. You know, the older generation, basically it's a war of attrition over the last 30 years, and they have been worn down. And I think, you know, I don't think we should be too critical of them. I'm not saying, oh, they're bad or they're wrong. I'm just saying, I understand.
They're tired.
You've been doing it for 30 years. It's hard to keep it up. But now then, retire gracefully, show your support to the young people, and pass the torch. Exactly. And I think that would be a very healthy thing to do. But in Hong Kong, in Chinese society, passing the torch to the younger generation seems to only happen when people die. Which is a great shame.
This is the Chinese culture generally, not only.
Well,
Hong Kong. But I have a theory. Actually, not my theory. Actually, I was told by some senior politicians in Hong Kong that actually the older generations, as you said, they don't have the resolve anymore, and they're sort of tired because they know that. I mean, the Democrats, who I'm talking about, they know that they will not stand a chance to have real power, because most of them are already in their late 50s or early 60s. I mean, chief executive election, we know that we get a genuine one in 2017. This chance is very slim. And the possibility that actually the Democratic camp could field a candidate that could really win the election will at least probably by 2027 or even 2032, and they will be too old.
I think if we're looking at 2027, Hong Kong will be well and truly the frog that's been boiled at that point. We need to do something a lot sooner. But the problem then is if Hong Kong pan-democrats are only going into politics because they want to seize power for themselves, then you're fundamentally making a mistake of why you should be here. You know, Hong Kong is this very strange situation where you can vote for the opposition, but you can never vote for the government.
That's true.
But I believe that most people in Hong Kong who go into politics do it because they want to make the place a better place. They might not, you know, becoming chief executive shouldn't be the end goal. If that's all you're there for, then you're going to be disappointed. But you can still do something very valuable for Hong Kong as a legislative councillor, as a district councillor, and you know, yes, I don't think Beijing is going to allow a pan-democrat to win chief executive election, let's face it, right? But what we can do is if we go out and actually vote and use our power of civil disobedience or protesting, but, you know, actually go and vote. You know, you have a very limited democratic right. At least use it, and then use it in conjunction with other methods. You know, if people who have who support democracy, whether they're moderate or radical, actually go and vote in the 2016 election, then we stand a much better chance because we can field more candidates for district councillors. We can, you know, at least ensure that that we can veto changes to basic law. If, on the other hand, what's most likely to happen, which is Democratic Party do an agreement with the government, the liaison office, like in 2010, and we have the situation where some kind of chief executive election, the chief executive reform proposal is passed, but it doesn't meet international standards, or, you know, it's never going to come close to civil nomination, then they are probably going to lose all of their seats, or at least half their seats in the 2016 election. But what I don't see happening is those voters who stop voting for Democratic Party moving over and voting for People Power or LSD. And so if you lose those voters, then what happens? You lose those seats.
Right.
You lose less than a third. You only need to lose 3 seats to have less than a third of the seats. And then
they can do anything.
The show's over, so who cares what happens in the chief executive election in 2017? It's all over in 2016. So it's incredibly critical right now.
Let's go further on this point after the break.
諗咩啊？估啊！
係水感誘滑，江本透明質酸0.03。
click 入我哋嘅網址，瀏覽江本80週年最新活動啦！